Today we're going to talk about going from a log right to a bowl, finished. I turn all green wood. I do no segmenting, no dry wood, none of that. Strictly all green turning. So this is a real simple it doesn't matter what size lathe you have. What I'm going to do today is a perfect lathe size from 10 inches to as big as you want. Typical size of what I'm doing today is going to land about 6.5 inches. So any lathe will handle this turning. First thing you need is a log, which we have. We have our log. This is actually a piece of cherry, and it's a branch. It's not the tree, it's a branch. So these are falling everywhere. You can find these, every storm, you'll find that size piece of wood. I was just telling Ned, I've been turning for about 8 years. And you come to these meetings hoping to learn something. 2 months ago, I was at a demonstration, and I learned something after 8 years that I cannot believe was so simple and never knew. So we have our log, it's a limb. You take a look at the end, you locate the pith. You go online, they tell you any video you see, basically cut there, you'll have this all cut out, and here's your bowl, okay? Every video says that, every description. And I've done that, I'm on 700 and something bowls, that's the way I do it. Then I go to the demo and find there's actually the right way to do it. I never knew. It's like, how could that be possible? So, same thing, you get your log, you locate your pith. You take your ruler and you'll find the equal distance from your pith on both sides of the log. You'll have to play with the ruler in this format to get the same exact measurement from the pith. So in this particular case, it's probably right here, okay? And we're not going to cut all this foolishness. I'm going to cut right through the pith, okay? What that does is when you take your 90 on that line to the pith, you should see, if I drew a better circle, the same exact amount of hardwood, sapwood on both sides of the circle. You look on this, if you put your square there, they are not the same. They're not the same. So you've got more wood on this side, less on this side. So why is that important? Well, two things. Visually, when you center the piece, you'll have exactly the same amount of heartwood and sapwood on both sides of the bowl, okay? Also, when you look at the bowl, you'll see the pith was right here and right there, and they're dead center. They're dead center. Visually, it gives you a very pleasing effect. Everything matches. Otherwise, you may have half sapwood here, half hotwood there. It still makes a nice bowl, but it's not aesthetically pleasing, okay? The other thing is, as this bowl's drying now, it's drying together. This side and this side are drying in one direction. This side and this side are drying in one direction. Reduces the amount of cracking that you'll get. I very rarely turn cherry because it cracks on me 99% of the time. This is the first one I did. I was like, son of a bitch. It didn't crack. So there is a reason for this. And when this is finished, you'll see, and you can actually see two eyes right dead center and your hotwood going right through the middle. Not to the left, not to the right. Perfectly balanced. And it's all measuring from the pith. Just play with it with the ruler so that each side of the log is the same exact distance. It takes a little bit of fooling around. So here's my log. Here's the pith right there. So we've measured it out. Here's the top part of the bowl, one bowl. tenon will go up here. The other part's a little shallower, which would make a nice live edge, smaller bowl. But either way, so you're gonna get 2 bowls, 1 log. So what I do when I find my log, if I'm not gonna work on it right away, I wrap it in shrink wrap. It keeps the moisture in. It's the same as using like Anchor Seal or paint or whatever you want to use on the end, just a hell of a lot cheaper, and it lasts forever. So I've taken my log, I drew it, cut it on the bandsaw, because this is only 8 inches, okay? Well, I mentioned that, never, ever run the log this way through the bandsaw. It don't work. And it'll bust your blade, it'll bust your fingers every single time because it'll roll. How do I know that? Don't do it. They sell jigs for it. If you're gonna do it, buy the jig. But if you try to hand hold the log, push it through the bandsaw to get your size, you're guaranteed you're gonna have a problem. Major problem. All right, so we got the log. Split it on the bandsaw. Now we have 2 halves. Both a little bit different. This one's going to be a little deeper. This one's going to be a little shallower. All right. Next, I have these little circle cutouts and they're marked what size they are. So this one's a 6.5 inch. I put it on the log. I put my awl in there on the top, in a little pinhole. Put my awl in there and kind of make a circle. Doesn't have to be a circle, just close, just close. Then 2 things, now I have all the corners knocked off and I now have a center mark for where I'm thinking of the size bowl. So when you do that, which right off the bandsaw, now you have this supposedly, and we're gonna find out tonight, supposedly perfectly balanced blank, ready to go. So the corners have been cut off. I had it wrapped in plastic. I've got no checking whatsoever. Maybe a little bit there, but that'll go away. That's right where the pith is. But if you wrap it in plastic, it keeps it moist. You try to keep as much moisture in, because once it dries, that's where your checking comes in. So we'll take that, we'll go right to the lathe. I already have my pinhole from when I put my cardboard cutout on. So that'll go right up against the tailstock, right in that hole. This is the bark side of the log. This is my cut side. This will make a traditional bowl. If you turn it around, bark side to the headstock, that will make a live edge bowl. This edge will stay as is. So that's the difference between live edge and traditional. So bark to the tailstock, traditional bowl. Bark to the headstock, live edge. So the little piece there would make a perfect live edge. Just turn it around. That's all you do. I'm going to turn this between centers because I'm trying to get it balanced. If it's not balanced, I can move it between centers. If you use a faceplate or if you use a screw, worm screw, once you put it on, that's what you're dealing with. So this way, if you have to change it or adjust it, very easily done. Which I probably will not have to, but just so if you had to, you could. Pass it on. So I'm going to put my live center right on that little divot up against the headstock. I like to use my tool rest as a ruler, if you will, just to make sure we're kind of spinning really true. Not bad. Not bad, but if you have to make that adjustment, that's all it is. I'm going to crank this up real good because we're turning between centers. Lock it in, lock it in. Move the tool rest in place. Tool rest is a little bit below center because of you want your tool to be halfway center. okay, just like that. And you can see, so I put the camera here. Try not to focus on what I'm doing, what the tool's doing. And I'll walk you through what I'm doing. I put a magnet on here so you can see this is my flute. Flute right now is open, 12 o'clock. Whoops. 12 o'clock is open. So when I come in, I'm going to make my cut. I'm going to do 2 different cuts. I'm going to pull to get a clean back, and I'm also going to push. And you'll notice if you're looking at the magnet, move it up a little bit. So I'm going to turn my flute towards 2 o'clock, push cut, come back the other way towards 10. So I'm basically just rotating my tool. If you're using carbide tools, you don't have to deal with that. You just come right in with your square cutter, whether it's got sharp cornered or round, doesn't matter. And just steps, step, 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 all the way in, get a nice clean face. And you'll do the whole thing with that roughing valve. They call it a roughing square. Basically just coming in and just taking baby steps. Once you get your shape, then you switch over to your round carbide. Hollowing is a little bit different. I'll talk about that while we're hollowing. Today I'm going to use primarily just a bowl gouge. If we can turn the lathe on. If I plug the lathe in. If I plug the lathe in. Is it? It's not. That'll get us started.
Hey, Rick, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
If it comes off, how far out this way is it going to go?
Well, no, here's the good news. So here's the good news, a good point, good question. When you turn it, first off, never stand in the line of fire. Where is it going to go? It's not going to go here. I'm going to go right through that door. Okay? When it comes off, it's either going to go that way or it's going to go up that way because of the tool rest. But you'll notice, everybody pay attention when I'm turning. When I start, I'm going to start on this side of the lathe. When I get to this side, I'll do some pull cuts. I'll be on this side of the bowl. When it goes, and it will go, it'll go that way. Very rarely goes that way. It will go that way when it explodes. That's a different question.
So where's it going?
So always, when you're turning, for that same reason, always face mask. This is a variable speed lathe. I highly recommend, if you get a lathe without variable speed, and your startup is about 400 or 500, the thing's going to chatter like crazy the minute you turn it on. So this is 400, 500, 800. You go till you feel that little bit of vibration, which I'm at 970, call it 1,000 RPMs. So I'm going to start off with, I just want to clean the back. So I'm going to do a pull cut and a push cut just to show you the difference. So this is a pull cut. So again, my flute is now about 10 o'clock. And engaging the bevel and just pull. And you see where the lathe stops? Because I'm not biting hard enough on the gear. So that's pulling, starting right from the live center, approximately 10 o'clock, I pull my way through. You can also push your way through, starting on the end. Now my flute is more towards 2 o'clock. Push right through. Now my back is kind of flat enough for today. I use these little cardboard cutouts. I don't know why I saw them. I was like, well, that makes life easier. So this measurement is my chuck measurement, okay, which we'll get into in a minute. So what I'll do is just take my cardboard on center, And I have my mark. That's the distance I want my chuck to, my tenon to be. So with that, can't really see it in the camera, but it's there. So I'll turn it back up. And I'm going to come in and stop just when I get to that line. Again, it's a quick stop. Stop just before I get there. Wow. The wood is green, so that's not unusual for that to happen. So there's my rough size of my tenon. I'm going to reverse this, hold it with the chuck. So now I'm going to come this way to start getting the shape. For that, I'm going to use push cuts. Same push cut as before. Just pushing my way right through. Should be able to see if you're watching the camera. Just getting the top. That's annoying. Again, just the regular push cut right through. I'm going to run this push cut to get rid of both sides of the bark. So all the way through. As you go, just keep readjusting your tool rest to match the profile. You want to have your tool rest as close to the wood as you possibly can. You don't want that overhang. All right. So now I just want to get rid of this bark, so I'll get a little aggressive with it. Turn my RPMs up. I'm running about 1,300 RPMs. And again, I'm behind the line of fire in case I don't want to hit Smokey with this one. Aggressive.
Is that slipping or stalling?
Slipping. I turn on a 24-inch Powermatic, 3 horsepower. So I'm a little bit more aggressive than Laguna had in mind. Again, the push cut. We'll just stop and see how much more we got to go. So we're almost there. We'll just get rid of this little bit, and we'll be there. Again, we'll bring the tool rest in tighter. I'm pretty close to where I want to be. I still have quite a bit to take off, not much, but I want to switch over to pull cut. The reason I do that is, for some reason, you can see the shape here is almost one directional. To make this cut, you need to come in and then turn in. For some reason, it gives me trouble. I can't see that shape that I'm looking for. So I use a pull cut. I'm going to start here with my flute, roughly 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and I'm going to pull my way through with just using my body. So pull the tool, and what happens is I'm staring up here, right up here on the top of the bowl, and I can physically see the shape starting to happen. So I'll know when I want to come in a little bit more curved, a little bit more aggressive. So I'm not looking at the tool, I'm looking right up here, and I'm going to follow my cut right through in a pull cut. And I'll be on this side of the line of fire. The only problem with this cut is it throws it in your face now. But you can see exactly see the bowl, see the shape right there. You know, if you can, I guess can't look that way. Not sure if you can see that or not. But if you can, you'll follow that line and just pulling yourself backwards. And they make a smock for this so you don't fill up your pockets. but you have to put it on. That's part of it. So, again, didn't do that in the demo before, but that's all right. Too late now, as they say. So I get a little bit more bark on there, so I got to reshape this bottom to match. Again, push cut, stopping. When I get to the tenon, so I'm rolling my 2 o'clock on my flute. As I start to approach the tenon, I'm rolling to a closed position. If this wing hits the tenon, it's not a very good thing. So as you're coming in, you start to close the flute when you get to that last section. That way the wing won't catch. And you can see now it's starting to take a better shape. Right here I'm open, and now I'll close as I come in. Right there. And again, I'll switch to a pull cut. Now I get a lot more. And now I can really redefine the shape I'm looking for. A little bit more bark right there. This side's gone, so I'll make one more cut, should get it. A little bit there, I'm going to leave it for the moment. So I don't know how well the camera's showing this, but there's some obvious tool marks. They're right there, right there, right there. I don't know if you can see those or not. So with that, I'm kind of happy with the shape for now. I want to get rid of these tool marks. You learn to scrape the bowl and clean it up now, all the less sanding you'll do. I'll start sanding at 240. When the bowl's just wet, I won't even bother sanding it. I'll wait until it dries, but that'll come at the end of the video, at the end of the demonstration. So this cut is a scraping cut. The handle is now held well down below, and I'm using just the outside wing and scraping this way, and then I'll switch wings. Same thing, handle well down, scraping again to get that. And that'll give you perfect finish. So handle well down below your belt. Can you see that on there? You can see the flute is now basically closed. Just using that wing. A lot of pressure up against the tool rest so there's no bounce. Now go the other way, opposite side. what you're after is this angel here, which is taking rid of all the tool marks, or most of them anyway. When you're up here turning, you'll see these tool marks. And if you don't get them out, you'll have to sand, and it takes a lot. So I got a few in there, not too bad. I'm going to leave them, just I don't want to go crazy with this. I'll make one more pass just because I do have some more bark up there. Speed up a little bit. So I put the tool down without touching the tool rest. That's not recommended. I'm gonna go back one pass the other way. Get that angel here. Now I get rid of pretty much all of my tool marks except for that one right there, which I'll catch up with that later. So now onto the tenon. Basically got the outside, now I want this to fit in the chuck. So now this, I use two types of chucks. I use what they call a spigot. So my jaws are ribbed but straight. The other set would be dovetailed. So depending on what kind of chuck you buy. This is a one-way, and theirs do not have dovetails. The Novas, all of those, they're all dovetail jaws. So you'll need to make a dovetail tenon. Mine does not. Just so you know, I'm not doing that. So this is, you want the tenon to be not quite the full depth of the jaws. You don't want the tenon to touch the back of the jaws. The jaws are designed to keep the bowl centered, but not touching the back. If you're touching the back, it matters whether or not your back of the tenon is perfect. If it's not going to be perfectly round. So you stay, so this right here you can see is more than my jaws, so I need to take some of this off to thin up the thickness of my tenon. So do that right now. I already know I have the right size tenon. Now I'm just going to remove some of this wood. And again, close my flute so don't get in trouble when I get down there. Now I'm going to come in with my spindle gouge and just make it straight. And again, now if you had dovetail jaws, now you would make your dovetail, which you would still use a spindle gouge as well, or a smaller. I use a 5/8 full gouge, so you'd want something smaller to make that tenon. So mine just needs to be somewhat square, if you will. Okay, so now I have my tenon. Got a little spot there from when I did that, so I want to correct that. Now I won't be able to get in there once I put my jaws on. So I just come in lightly with the spindle gouge. Again, same time, I'm just going to scrape a little bit just to get rid of that. Now, if you're a carbide turner, and you're not using the gouge and you're not using that scraping cut, if you come in with your round, so assuming you've already got your shape with your square, just basically using step, 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 then come in with your round. If you tilt your cutter to approximately 45 degrees, you will get a scraping cut at that point. So if you're a carbide turner, It's a little bit different than what I'm doing today, but you can still make this bowl on your regular lathe with carbide tools. So that would be, just make a cut, or scrape if you will. These carbide tools scrape, they do not cut, just so you know. So if you turn it on about a 45, nice light cut. And again, you can see the shavings coming off are just this light particles. That's all you're not really trying to change the size. Just trying to get, you know, a clean surface to reduce sanding. When you're a carbide turner, you will learn to sand. That's part of the game. All right, so we've got our, basically our bowl done. It should be, here's my pith right there, basically there, and completely opposite that, here it is again. Now this is going to be removed because like that first description, you know, they cut out that whole pith. I cut on the pith, so I'm going to remove as much as I have to just to get rid of it, which is about 1/2 inch. Okay? Take that out, and then we'll go to hollowing. Any questions so far? Sometimes, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm not the best teacher because I think everybody already knows what I'm talking about, but if you don't, just ask them to slow down and I'll...
Rick, the dovetail tenon you were talking about, does that mean it's angled? Is that
It's angled like 15 degrees, just like a regular dovetail
Okay.
jaw.
I assume that's what it
Yeah, all that is, so I came in and made my shoulder square. You would, if you had dovetail jaws, you would go inwards a bit. And it doesn't have to be 15 degrees. It's just what that does is that actually sucks the bowl in and makes a really tight fit. I was never good at making dovetail tenons, so I went and bought a one-way chuck that doesn't require them. It just made sense to me. It was like, you can't do it, don't bother. Get a different chuck.
Remember this? That way.
Yeah, we're done with that. So I'm using a chuck that's a little bit bigger than needed for this style bowl, and it actually works out well. And when I get to the end, I'll explain why. But for this size bowl, the average chuck you buy is going to come with 2 3/8 jaws. That's more than enough for a 12-inch lathe. My lathe is bigger, so I have a bigger chuck, which means my tenon's bigger. You can see I left the nub on there. That's going to come in handy when we try to take this foot off. So this center mark is there. Never remove it until you're absolutely done with the bowl. Never move this mark, because if you have to put it back on the lathe for any reason, that's the only way you're going to know you're back on center, to go with the same spot. Always take your live center out. When you bang your elbow up against this, it is probably one of the most painful things you can imagine. A lot of lathes come with without this extension on there, and what I usually do is I'll pull this pin. Mine actually has, this will swing away. So I can lose it, but it's easiest to just take this off. If you have a decent sized bowl on there, don't take this off. Use it to hold it till you get started. But with this little bowl, I'm going to skip that step. But they do recommend always just bring the tailstock up. The only difference is when you bring the tailstock up and you start hollowing, you got to stop, and you'll leave a center nub in there until you're comfortable to move it.
Rick, I think you got a pin down there that you might bury.
Yeah, I don't like that pin in the first place, so if I did bury it, I don't even know where mine is. I don't even keep it on the lid. I don't know. It's a safety thing, so you can't slide the tailstock off with that pin there. Which, yeah, it's a safety thing. I get it. So all jaws have 2 locking spots. Lock them both. And we'll spin it, make sure we're still fairly true. If not, you need to adjust that right now. If the bull's really, really stubborn, sometimes I will just take my bull gouge and make one pass now, so it'll be on the same plane. But this is, it's pretty close. It's not off that much. So for hollowing, first off, I got to get rid of roughly a ½ inch, and I'll just use push cuts. Just get rid of it. It means nothing to the bowl. So again, I'll use my bowl gouge. And just push cuts, come right across. As you're coming across, you can see right there, my elbow's coming way up, trying to get across. The reason for that is my tool rest is too high. So when you're pushing across, you should make one smooth pass. It should go right by and not past. If it goes past, you're too low. If it stops where it did, I'm too high. So just lower my tool rest just a little bit. That should go easily right across without fooling around with my elbow. The tool still belongs down on your tool belt while you're making your cut. So now all I want to do is make sure the pith is gone. And for the most part, gone enough. So that won't be a factor. So for hollowing, basically, there's two ways to do the hollowing, and this lathe is set up the right way, but with the bed extension, it makes it not doable. If you have a lathe with a movable headstock, and this one is, you can bring the headstock down to here. Then you can stand on this side of the lathe, working full visibly what you're doing. To make the hollowing cut, you need to be more than past center of the bed. So what that means is when I'm making this hollowing cut, I need to bend over, bring the tool way over here, and I'm making my cut this way. So if you have the capacity to move this, move it, because aerodynamically it's better for your back and the whole thing. If you have a bed extension on there, it doesn't quite work, which we do. But it's not that bad. This is a small bowl. But if you're making a big bowl, all your cuts are bent. You're bent over, staring into the bowl, well past the table, and pull it. So what I'm doing is my tool is now still going to be approximately about 2 o'clock. I'm going to start well past the bed, get my cut, and pull. And push at the same time. So like an ice cream scoop. I'm scooping it out. What you want to get used to, it happens instantly, and I do it, everybody does it without knowing, but if you start, you put your tool there and hold it for a split second, it'll start to make a cut. As soon as it makes that cut, that's enough for full bevel support. If you come in real quick and just pull it, you'll find that your tool's going to come back at you. If it comes back at you, it's because you're approaching the bowl with no bevel contact. So to get that initial bevel contact, simply just press up against the wood and don't move. Split second, that'll give you enough of a ledge to gain full bevel support, okay? Try to do it as slow as I can. So you can see that, you can see what I'm talking about. So from the center, well past, 2 o'clock on my flute. See it? See it move back? No bevel support. You hold that tool there for a second, now pull. That's all the bevel support you need. And just keep step right through. more of a, so I'm a little bit open and slightly closing as I go around. Almost ice cream scoop is the best way to describe it. I don't know if you can see that in the, let me move my hand. How's that? That's all you need. As long as you've got double support and maintain, that's all you need. I'm pushing in this hand. That's all you need. Again, keep it right out. So you can see where if you were standing back here, you would be staring at it and just going this way and just turn your body. Just go in, make a cut, turn your body, bang, you're hollow. So same thing with me again. Running at about 1800, we'll turn her up a little bit. I was going to put my bag there because I know exactly where the shavings are going to go. I did a demonstration in my basement. I have my bag like this, so just put my bag right there. Then I'll fill it. I saw that on Mike Mahoney does that, but he has a big 2-yard catch there. There was a time I would practice that, see if I could get them in there. You know, when you know where the tools go, and you're like, I'll shoot them right in the bag, I won't have to clean up. All right, back to turning. So now we're going to find out, once I get this done, if it's balanced properly. But the other thing with this balance and with the bowl drying evenly and quickly, you want your thickness to be as consistent as you possibly can all the way through. So just using your fingers, I'm very thin here and I'm very thick here. So that's bad. So I got to get this clean to the point where the wall thickness is consistent all the way through. So my shape out here is not bad. I'm a little under 1/2 inch. I forgot to mention, while I was hollowing, get carried away with the hollowing. If you're a carbide turner, when I first started turning, my first bowl about this big took me 1.5 days to figure it all out. If you're a carbide turner, it's a secret to carbide turning. If you use a drill bit, drill the depth that you want with your drill bit, then you'll have a hole dead center. Using your square cutter, you can come in with that hole and just push and make step cuts all the way through till you get to the thing. You can hollow in 5 minutes flat with a square carbide using that technique. Put the hole first, force them a bit, 1 inch, plenty, even 3/8, 3/4. You want to be bigger than your thickness of your tool, because you want your tool to be able to go right into the hole. So, but basically you just come in and step, 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 and just keep doing that as you get deeper and deeper. When you get past the hole, you know you're at the thickness that you put in. Then switch over to your round, because now you would have a bunch of steps. Use your round, come in, and just straight. Same thing, you can turn this to a 45 for cleanup. I use this a lot on my bigger bowls, because occasionally I'll get one of the hardest things to learn is when you're coming in with the bull gouge, when do you actually turn and start to make that pivot? And most of the time, I would have a tool mark so bad, I would just leave it. It's just I couldn't get it out. I would just leave it. Then I switched over to round. I said, well, I'll put the round in there. But once you get comfortable and you learn, you're following your bevel in. When you get to that particular, you start to turn your tool, not quite close, but just turn to keep this wing from catching. When this wing catches on that turn, that's a catch, and that makes a mess. It puts a pretty good dent in the bowl. So I'm still a little on the thick side. So I'm going to make one more pass. A lot of times at this stage would be a great time to put a new edge. Just run over the sharpener, 2 seconds, put a nice clean edge on, as this will probably be the final cut. You can see where I'm open, and now I'll start to just slightly close as I approach the bottom. Okay. You can also shear scrape the inside of this. Same thing, getting the tool knocked out. I should leave that one in there. I think I will, just so you see it. Just leave the little tool mark in there. So now, basically, you have your bowl. You could sand it. At this stage of the game, I turn all green. This, I bet you if I put the meter on here, it's probably 35% moisture. So sanding it now is probably not going to do a lot. But being this thickness, believe it or not, it'll dry in less than a month indoors. Once it's dry, I'll put it back on the lathe. And that's why I kept that little nub in there. So if I do have to put it back on the lathe, I know where my center is. If I have to make an adjustment, I can. Okay? So with this particular size bowl, and I said, you know, you don't really need this big tenon. I wish Chris Rowe was here. I had the perfect thing, but I'm going to tell you what it is anyway. So with this size bowl, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to take this off, but I'm not going to take it off. I'll go through the steps, but I'm going to leave some of this on there, because what it'll do is that when it sits on the table, it keeps it raised up off the table just a little bit. It's a little pleasing thing. So to do that, what Chris Rowe does, I'll show you, is if you hollow this out just a little bit, almost make another bowl on this tenon, but leave the tenon. And then he takes a spindle sander or a Dremel and carves 3 feet into the tenon. So removing, remove this, this, and this, but leave the 3 feet. Does that make sense? And that way, when the bowl starts to walk, it'll always sit square because that's 3 feet. And that's, we kid about it all the time. Chris Rowe has a copyright on that because that's his signature. So you have to get written permission from him if you're going to do that. If you're going to have feet, you got to have permission from Chris. So I'm going to put this back on because as I was feeling, I was like, boy, that's terrible. The bottom of this is awful. I just want to clean that up real quick. I'm going to go back to the round. So now, once you take it out of the chuck, very rarely fits back in. A lot of times if you're going to do this, you'll see a lot of guys, all your jars are marked 1, 2, 3, 4. You can mark 1 and mark the bowl 1 so that you put it in the same exact spot when you do it. Yeah. So I'll go back. I just wanted this bottom was awful. So to do that, I didn't put my little screw back in there because it's annoying, and I knew I was going to do this. So now we need the tailstock again. So as you're turning, you're always going to create scraps of wood. We're going to put that in the chuck. Light it up. And my tool rest back up. Go aside. And what I want to do is just make sure this is somewhat round. And if it's not, it will be in a second. So it's got a little wobble in it. So this is what you would call air chuck. So we're just going to put this right over that scrap piece of wood, right back to where I said make sure you leave that in there. And now the bowl's running back through again. Okay? So I want to leave this foot, or some of this foot, for two reasons. A, I'm going to need to rework this bowl sanding wise when I get it home, but I want to show you how to get the foot off as well. So I'm going to take off some of the foot and leave some. I used the bigger jaws on purpose because I knew I wanted to leave that foot on there. If I was going to take it off, I would have brought smaller jaws. But to get that off, and just take the bowl gouge. I'm going to come in, bring this in, and as I'm coming in, it's closed completely. Closed completely. Now, using the live edge, I'm going to grab that cut and come in to take that nub off. I would normally leave that nub on, but I want to show you how to get it off. So we're just going to come in and get that nub off. And again, now I'm closing so that when I get to the bowl, if you have your flute open and this catches the bowl, it's a nasty catch. So I'm closing my flute as I'm approaching the bowl. This is a 5/8 bowl gouge, so a little big for what I'm trying to do. That's why they make spindle gouges. So the spindle gouge will come right in. Bring this in. With the spindle gouge, I have a nice long wing, very pointy. Nice long wings. You can really get in there, nice and tight. Almost to the point. With a little bit of practice, you can go right in and slow the lead down and hit the brakes as quick as you can and not have to worry about the next step. You can see the wobble. It already broke off. So now you just take this. Everybody knows these, right? Everybody has a set of these. There you go. So now, just sand this up, sign it, let it dry. And if you look, we'll pass this around. Both centers are exact. My heartwood is exact. My sapwood is exact. The center of the bowl right here is actually in the center where it belongs. And that's the way you get a bowl out of log. A balanced bowl, I should say. If you look at the detail of the four sides, you'll see in the center, you'll see what I'm talking about as far as centering the bowl. And that'll help it dry consistently. When you put a finish on there, being in the center, it makes all the difference in the world. And if somebody had told me that some 700 bowls ago, I would have raised my price another $20. I sell all my work, so I know how many I've done. I have 770 bowls so far. Ned's seen some of my work. I do a lot of fairs, craft fairs, festivals. So everything I turn, I eventually sell. So a feature like this would have came in really handy 4 or 5 years ago.
So you're gonna do a recall?
I'm sorry?
You're gonna do a recall and you're saying?
Well, nobody's actually said anything yet, so I'm gonna just make like they're all perfect. Some of them probably are. I mean, I probably did cut some right by mistake. So, but I don't normally do bowls like this. You know, my bowls typically are from 12 to 24 inches. I do a lot of big stuff. I do a lot of burls, as well as some spindle turning as well. So it's not always about the bowl. It's, you know, I brought in birdhouses a while ago, turned them with 2x6s, with fun project, anything really.
So you can put burl wood on a lathe like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. So when you're engaging that bevel on the cut, and actually at Fine Furnishing, I turned what I call my airplane propeller. So placing a 2x4 lengthwise, you know, and it goes every other rotation. The tool does not know there's air there. The piece is going fast enough, and you're riding the bevel properly, that fact that there's no wood there is immaterial. So you could have a void of a whole, you know, quarter of the size of the bowl. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll get the outside of the bowl done, and then if you've got that many voids, we'll shrink wrap it. Shrink wrap the outside, put it back on the lathe. Now when you're hollowing, the shrink wrap will keep it from exploding, should you get a catch, you know. But properly riding the bevel, the tool doesn't know there's air or a void. The tool doesn't know that. And as long as you're on that bevel, it's as safe as what I was just doing.
You mentioned that carbide tools scrape, whereas regular steel
The bowl gouge, spindle gouge, they are cutting the wood.
What's the distinction? Why does it matter?
The finish. So when you see the bowl go by, I didn't really do a lot of shaping and scraping, but I can get that to the point where it doesn't really need to be sanded. With the carbide, you'll see on the inside of that, I use the carbide, and I think you'll see the chatter marks in there, okay? Those will come right out. If I hit that with a 3/8 bowl gouge, they're coming right out, because it's cutting. You're going with the grain, you're getting bevel support. When you're using the carbide, you're just ripping. You're just ripping. I'm not saying don't use carbide. A lot of people turn with carbide. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the cheapest way out to get started. It's the easiest way to get turning. But when you get to finish quality work, you need to be using a bowl gouge. You need to be cutting, not scraping. You know, but you can do a lot with a carbide. I did a year. You can see if you look in there, you'll see the tear out from when I use the carbide. Now, if I put that back in the lathe with the bowl gouge, I'll clean that right up. You'll never see it, because that's an unsupported cut. That's where the end grain portion of the bowl is. So it's ripping. It's not cutting. Anybody else?
Bravo.
No? All right. Anybody that's interested in turning, the turners meet the third Thursday of the month in the classroom. And if anybody was ever interested in doing some turning, I would offer you to come to my facility, use my lathe, or even make some arrangements to meet you here where you could use the club lathe. Off hours, obviously.
And from a treasurer's point of view, for new members, if you don't know, our two groups are well associated.
Yeah.
Rick was, for many, many years, was president of the Turner's Group, and then came over here with us. So what we did is we have a combined thing. If you want to belong to both groups, you get a discount, which is
$60 for both.
right for both.
Not a big discount, but hey, discount's a
And even
discount.
if you were to decide after you've already paid your membership, I've done this for people who just pay the balance, the difference, and you can do both of those. So, just so you know.
I have a question, does beach turn well?
Beach, when it's wet, yes. And again, I'm turning all green wood. When that beach dries, you're gonna fight like crazy. And the beach moves like crazy. I've got some bowls, when I say move, they'll go from round to potato chip. Quickly.
I have a
But
bunch
they
of
don't-
trees on my property that are going through this.
Yeah, so I had a, and I don't know what I don't know what it's all about, but my brother-in-law called me one day and said, yeah, my neighbor just took down a beech tree, do you want a couple of pieces? I was like, yeah, a piece or two, sure. We brought over a truckload and monstrous limbs, like 20-inch limbs, and wet, heavy. They weren't cut right. There's a right way to cut a bowl blank, there's a wrong way. They were all wrong. I ended up throwing most of them in the fireplace. But ironically, I left one maybe a little bigger than this, maybe 12 inches, standing up in my garage, and I just left it there. And about 6 months later, I was looking for something to do. I said, well, I'll grab that. That thing spalted like there was no tomorrow from sitting on the concrete floor being so wet. Turned out to be one of the prettiest bowls I ever turned. So you don't know when you're dealing with green wood until you cut this open. The other half of this limb was almost all burl wood, and it wasn't even a burl. I have that at the house. I didn't turn it yet, but you know, even these are limbs that you'll find every storm or every, you know, your branches leaning over your fence. This is the type of wood and the easiest to turn. You know, when you're segmenting and doing all kiln dried lumber, you really got to know how to use a gouge or a carbide. And in my opinion, if you learn how to turn green, it'll make it easier for you to get to that next step. Whether you get there or not, it's immaterial. It's so much easier. This is like cutting butter with a butter knife compared to, you know, trying to hammer and chisel dovetails in a piece of white oak. You know?
Rick, do you ever, I've seen this, I'm not a turner, but I've seen, do you ever rough turn bowls, put them aside and let them dry a bit and then put them back on?
Some people do that. It's a pain in the butt. It takes a very long time. What he's talking about, if you, what they call twice turn, so today I went, that's a single turn, bowl's ready, it's gonna move, I know that, that's okay. That's part of the deal. Twice turn, you leave the diameter of the bowl approximately 1 inch thick, okay? Leave your tenon on there, make it a little oversized because you're gonna put it back on the lathe eventually. Problem with that 1 inch bowl, like that bowl is gonna dry in no more than 5 weeks. It'll be ready for sale. I actually know a trick to get it ready for sale tomorrow, but we're not getting into that. So when it's 1 inch thick, that bowl could take 6 to 8 months to get to dry. And so you gotta make a whole bunch of bowls, put them on a shelf, and come back in 6 months. So it's a lot of people do it. But then you'll get the bowl cleaned out, ready to go, same day, pretty much. But it's a really long process, and it's a lot of extra work, in my opinion. If you learn to get your wall thickness thin, they'll dry quick. And the amount of cracking that people have If you balance a bowl, you'll eliminate most of it, and it's just easier. But now again, that second turn, the wood's not green anymore. So now you're turning dry wood. So again, it's dry, green and dry, two different avenues. But
So I have a piece of cedar
yes,
and I turn it green. I
yes,
should be cutting it the way you just told me to cut it,
yeah,
not the way we talked about the last meeting.
okay. So that should be,
It should work out there.
should be good, yeah, should be good. If anybody's interested, you can take these chunks with you if you want. They're perfectly balanced. This will make the perfect live edge bowl. This will make the same bowl that I just did. If you're interested, just draw a line and have at it. And I don't have to lug them home. All right, cool.
Thank you.